time?
Well, we're live.
It says we're live.
It says we're live on YouTube. You excited?
I love that we only hit one button. That's what I love about it.
Well, welcome everybody to Monday Night Live here in sunny St. George. Dean Nixon and the lovely Kate Semmens with Turningleaf Health and Wellness.
Hello.
We are excited to be coming at you live on YouTube.
You're all flustered because we're on the YouTube.
I'm
when
lost.
There's like 7 cameras. Dean's like, I got this, no problem. We got one. And he's like, oh,
I don't know.
Where are we? We're in sunny
60.
St. George, Utah.
Well, we're excited to get going tonight and to spend this time with you. We have loved all the feedback that we've been getting, and especially off our podcast.
Yes. Oh, the podcast is so much fun. If you guys haven't checked it out, it's a blast. At least I'm having a blast doing it.
Yes,
so
they are
hopefully
good.
You guys have a blast listening to them as well.
Yeah, we've had so many great topics, and if you haven't found our podcast yet, please make sure you either go to some of the links in some of the other previous episodes or webisodes that we have, and or on our pages. And if you still can't find them, just send us a DM, I guess, direct message us, and on our pages, on any of the pages, and we will make sure you get a link.
Yeah. However, if you're finding us from our YouTube page, they're all right there, like all in a row, because I finally figured out how to upload them all to YouTube. So they're all there in a row.
You're doing an amazing job. Well, as we get started and are excited to jump into our topic for tonight, one of the things that has really been coming across our couches recently, especially what I've been noticing a lot with our clients, is this emotional ebb and flow. There is just so much emotion that people are struggling with, either with their children and their children's emotions, or with their own. Now, we know where we are. We're in a lot of chaos going on in our world. We know we've got the COVID going on. We've got social issues going on. We've got elections coming up. And that doesn't even take into consideration the day-to-day, everyday life.
Right. Yeah. All of the craziness that's going on right now. I love that you brought up the podcasting, because in the podcast, we are able to go into a lot more detail and depth. We have about an hour that we spend in conversation, where here we try to keep it around 20 minutes, but we talk about that a lot too. So I feel like, and the a lot to part is that emotional piece, right? So you mentioned children or just your own emotional thing that you have going on. And then we have just like the generic emotion of society and the planet and everything that's happening. And we are super connected in a web, if you will. And so we feel all of that. Like you may not be aware of that, as how much your emotional state is actually affected by the emotional state of your city, of your state, of the country, and of the world.
Yeah. If I break it down into a simple equation that everybody can relate to, and it's simply this. If you're in a room, everybody's having a great time, and somebody in a bad mood walks in, what does it do to the energy of the room? So it changes the energy. It changes the way people feel and the way they respond. So if we think that that's not happening on a larger level in a community, and we've seen that in communities, we've seen how the energy in a community, in a store, in a school, any of these types of settings, that emotional energy is something that we are picking up. I know it's easy for us to be distracted, and I know it's easy for us to not connect to the feeling of it. And I know that sometimes it's easy for us to get overwhelmed with that feeling and we push it away.
Right, absolutely. And sometimes it's really difficult to decipher, is this my actual feelings or just the feelings that I'm feeling? And I know this is kind of taken a left from where we were planning on going, but keep in mind as we roll through, our action items and how to be able to manage these emotional swings, that's also a pretty good place to check. I know I just have to check myself.
Yeah.
Is this actually coming from me, or is it coming from somewhere else?
Right.
Yeah.
Is this energy that I'm picking up, and am I giving it too much value? Am I giving it too much? But that emotional cognitive ability to kind of tap in, where I'm saying, okay, what am I feeling? And pausing I think that's where we're really falling down right now in our culture and in our society and technically in the world, in my opinion, is that we're not slowing down enough to tune into what we're feeling.
Right.
We're not slowing down enough to recognize what our feelings are. And again, we talked in so many webisodes that a lot of our feelings are overly connected to everything going on around us.
Mm-hmm.
And we use those overly connected things to really avoid how we're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So even if I'm feeling uncomfortable, I would rather go out and watch something, eat something, do something,
mm-hmm.
rather than really sit back and take the time to go, what is it I am struggling with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in that moment is when you have the power to be able to change it, to create the energy and the emotion that you want to have. But like you were saying, Dean, oftentimes we just want to not feel it. We just want to avoid or numb or distract, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Move away from those feelings. So that's where leading into this idea and this topic today is really getting to a point where we can start to understand more what's going on inside of us. And we can also recognize that there's two things we have to recognize is that feelings and what we're feeling is very transitory. So our emotions and our feelings will ebb and flow like the tides.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times when we're making decisions in life, we're making decisions off of those emotions, even though they aren't always going to be the same.
Right.
And a lot of you know what I'm talking about. You've had those days where you are in the best headspace, and an hour later you're just like life is over, you know,
mm-hmm.
and then you're down, and then the next thing you know, 2 hours later you're happy again.
Mm-hmm.
And so somehow we're trying to make decisions or navigate making solid decisions or making good decisions about who we are or what's going on in our life from those emotional ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we've got to recognize that the more that I can have emotional regulation and regulate my emotions, that will help me.
Mm-hmm.
But also that I have to have a really good anchor point of knowledge to make decisions from.
Yeah. And in those polar places is not where you should be making any sort of life-altering decision at all.
Exactly.
Because if that was the case, then I would be on my way to Bali right now. Because I was in that headspace like 4 hours ago, Dean.
You were ready to go.
And I don't know, I think I've already disclosed this probably, but that's my go-to. Like when life gets hard, I'm just like, I think faking my death and moving to Bali is a really great idea. Just start over, selling coconuts, reading tarot cards on the beach. I think it could be great. So obviously I should not be making big, heavy life decisions when I'm in that space.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That's the time in our lives that we want to be steering away from making life-changing or life-altering decisions.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that we can do during this period of time. So first is that we were talking about is number one is we have to slow down and really tune in and tap into what is going on inside of me. What are the emotions that I'm feeling? Are these my emotions? And if so, what is it that I'm feeling and what's really going on? The second piece that we want to be able to pay attention to is recognize that these are ups and downs emotions. And am I trying to make heavy duty decisions in this up and down, or am I waiting and using a better concrete way to make decisions?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love it. Those are perfect. I was too just thinking when you were saying from the what is it that I'm feeling, that oftentimes can be a really tricky piece too, because I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I feel 10 things all at once, and so to like really be able to sit back and take the time and figure out what it is that I'm feeling, where it's coming from, what belongs to me, and why I'm feeling that way, right? Like sometimes we, like you said, when life gets so fast and busy, not only do we not take the time to slow down to feel it and figure it out, but we don't even know where it's coming from sometimes.
Right.
So, and then I love the next step of not like going to those crazy places in order to create, figure out, okay, what am I going to do with my life at this point?
Making these big decisions. Yeah. And so the third piece that we have to do is we have to really anchor into what is true. And we've got to be really compiling this. And we've talked about this in the coping skills sections. We talked about this in the 8 essential coping skills, the evidence gathering process. And we've got to anchor into what is true, what is real, because there's a piece that we talk about. It's a real well-known piece, and that's where we have to make decisions based upon what is real and what is true versus what is a feeling. Because if I get caught up in the feeling part of things and try to make decisions from here, that can go one way or the other way, depending on the emotional state that I'm in. But if I'm using what's true, if I'm using facts, if I'm using the truth, and I'm really using that to help me during those periods of time where I'm floating, that helps me become more grounded. So, for example, if I was trying to make a decision about whether I wanted to cut my hair, right? A lot of people, they may go, hey, I'm ready to cut my hair off.
Have
right?
you seen those memes going around about, because, you know, everyone's been kind of cooped up a lot lately. It's like, don't take it out on your hair. Don't cut bangs.
I can't tell you how many times.
This is a really good topic. Dean.
This is, and that's why I'm using it, because I hear this one a lot, especially in women. It's like, oh, I want something different. I need to change this emotion that I'm in. So I'm going to cut my hair, or I'm going to do something drastic to my hair, because we're feeling out of control. And so we want to control something that we have control over. The problem is that we make those drastic, big, sweeping decisions, and then the consequences of them can either make things better or make things worse. And so in that time, in that situation when we're going, okay, well, I'm going to cut my hair, that's when we need to lean back into some of those truths. And we need to go, hold on a minute. Let me swing back over here. What do I know to be true? Well, I know that these feelings are temporary. I know that last time I did this, I didn't get what I wanted from it. I know that I need to stay more anchored in this. Or maybe it's, yeah, this is a good time for me to do this. This is a good shift. I've been, but we got to use that truth to really help us make the decision out of, rather than just making the decision purely off of how we're feeling in the moment.
Yeah, I love that. I do not know if you have a step 4, but I have one.
I would love it. Always. Let's hear your step 4.
So I feel like step 4 is kind of goes back to step 1. But once you have come up with something maybe that you want to do, the best way to make sure that it is actually something that's going to be sustainable and that a direction that you actually want to go in, and not something that's just kind of shifting with your emotional tide, is if it hangs out for a minute, right? Like if you want to cut your hair and you start looking at hairstyles or hair colors or whatever you want to do, and you kind of walk through it in your emotional wave the whole time, and on the end side of that, you still want to do it, then that's probably a pretty safe bet that that's a good choice to make, right? So sit with it and make sure, figure out what your emotion is, ground yourselves in facts, and then sit with it some more. Give it a little space. I feel like in our society that's just so instant, right? I think that's one of those kind of catch-22s where we feel like we have to do these things quickly, when really, most likely, you got a little bit of time. You got some space to sit in there and see if it is a good fit. I love that we always boil it down to something, pretty easy to talk about, like a haircut. But this could be huge things like, let's have a baby, or, all these big giant things, or I should change my career. Yeah. Get in a relation, all these kinds of things.
To Bali.
It's fake your death and fly Bali.
I personally don't want to go to Bali, so that's you thing.
I know.
But that is, and what you're talking about, I think this is important, is the impulsivity that we can fall into.
Right.
And we do get into that place where we want to swing to a polar opposite, because we get so rooted in the discomfort of where we are, and that discomfort, that feeling of, I don't like how this feels. I don't like how I'm feeling right now. So I need to do something dramatic to shift me out of it. I've got to do something, fake my death and move to Bali, as you would put it. And so as we're trying to make these big dramatic swings and these big dramatic movements and shifts away from where we are, the downside of that is that we're making an impulsive, emotional decision, and we're making it out of a reaction to what we don't want, rather than being a creator and being in that creative space. where we're saying, okay, this is the life I want to create. This is where I really want to go with myself. This is what I want to create and where I want to bring myself. That's really where we want to be going.
Right.
So as you talk about the impulsivity, that is a part of it. But most impulsivity comes from a reaction to not liking how we feel. So if I get into shopping impulsively, if I get into relationships impulsively, if I get into intimacy, physical intimacy impulsively, if I'm doing all these things, it's usually most often a large majority of the time because I'm trying to shift the emotional state I'm in through something outside of me rather than doing the work inside of me.
Right.
And that's where I've got to step back and go, okay, well, what is true? What are the truths? What are the consistencies? What are the facts? You know, it's that when you're a little child and you're like, oh, well, I don't like that I have to go to bed early, so I'm running away from home. And it's that impulsive, I don't like how I feel. I don't like what's going on. So I'm going to pack a pillowcase, shove everything in it, throw it over my shoulder and tell mom I'm moving on. And, you know, mom lovingly goes, okay, we'll see you back here in 10 minutes. And it's that idea of, I don't like where I am, so I've got to do something dramatically externally to shift rather than stepping back and going, well, what are the facts here? And with our children, we have to teach children how to do this. We have to teach children how to manage their emotional state. But you can't teach what you don't know.
Yes.
If you're not working to manage your emotional state, if you're not working to put yourself in a really healthy emotional headspace, then it doesn't matter what you do. Your children are not going to gain the perspective that they need.
Yeah. So 2 questions. Where was your runaway spot when you were little?
My runaway spot. I don't even know what you mean by that. Like,
well, you
where
said packing my pillowcase. I'm gone.
I mean, I think I made it to the end of the driveway.
Oh, you like legit left. I went to the treehouse in the backyard.
Yeah.
I just went to our playhouse and like, all right, this is where
This
it
is
is.
where I'm living in my treehouse. I think I don't remember. I just am pretty confident I didn't get very far. And my mother, who's amazing, she just was like, okay, bye.
See ya.
Be home for your sandwiches.
Visit at Thanksgiving.
And I got really hungry. So that is the piece. And so as we're working through this, as you're working through these pieces, it's going to be really important for us to remember these things. And that is, we've got to really get clear on what is the emotionality of it. Slow down, tune into your feelings. The second is recognizing that making decisions out of a transitory emotion is not going to be always the best decision-making process. The third is we really have to get clear on what it is we want. We've got to be creators in our lives. And then, as you were talking about, is let yourself sit with it for a while before you really jump into making these big decisions. And again, as always, if you are still needing more clarity on these topics, if you're still at a place where this is all not making sense enough yet, then give us a ring, give us a call, come in and see us, and we will help you work through these things. Because right now, like I was saying, Kate, I think right now, with school starting up, with, you know, it's putting a lot of people in emotional distress. We're getting into the fall. There's a lot of concern about what's going to happen with COVID again. We've got a lot going on with our school systems right now, trying to figure out and navigate through that. Plus, we have the political and the social issues that are going on every day in your media feeds. And then lastly, you know, we've got the election pieces. So the last part, you know, first beginning of next year, 2021, end of 2020, we've got a lot on our plates emotionally. And if we don't know how to navigate through these things emotionally, we lower our capacity to really be healthy and to feel healthy and to keep ourselves in a healthy space. Yeah.
And I think that this is just coming up, so I'm just going to share it. It's really normal to have this ebb and flow.
Yes.
So if you're looking at yourself in the mirror like, what the world is wrong with me? Why am I so emotional? What's going on? He just rattled off like 15 different things that are pretty interesting to navigate,
just socially,
right?
Yeah.
And who knows what's going on in your life individually, right? Like in all the different intricate layers of things. So always be so kind to yourself.
Yes.
And really know that there's absolutely nothing wrong with you because you have an emotional wave. That's actually really, really good news that you can feel feelings, right? Because that means that you're emotional, you have an emotional intelligence. So if you're having, like Dean was saying, if you're having a difficult time navigating that, we've given you some pretty cool skills to kind of ground into. But as always, we are here for you.
Yeah, reach out.
Yeah.
That's the last, I think if there was a step five, it would be perspective. Make sure that you're getting perspective from healthy people. Sometimes people feel overwhelmed. I know I get that space where I am overwhelmed. I'm stressed out of my mind. And it takes somebody from the outside tugging me, hey, buddy, do you realize what's on your plate?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm a doer. I don't pay attention to what's on my plate. I don't pay attention to those things. And it takes outside people helping me with a little bit of that perspective of you need to slow down, pull a couple things off your plate, et cetera. So if you're wondering and you're like, do I have that much on my plate? Reach out. Let people help you. You can go sit down with them and say, these are all things that are stressing me out. But then again, as always, read as much as you can and always educate yourselves. We've got great books you can follow on art with the key and the 4 steps to confidence and et cetera, et cetera. I can keep going, but I'll stop.
Well, we love you guys. Pretty excited to be here on YouTube Live.
So different. I don't even know what to think.
I know. But we hope you have a wonderful week and catch us on Friday with the Dean and Kate podcast.
Yes.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye.